In today's fast-paced world, we see countless things but rarely truly observe. Most people overlook the tiny signals that reveal who someone really is. In this story, you'll practice listening in English while learning 10 sharp observation skills, powerful tools that can become your superpower to understand people. Daniel was 29, working as a human resources specialist in a large international company. On paper, his role looked straightforward: interview candidates, evaluate their skills, and make fair decisions about hiring. But in reality, his job often felt like solving a puzzle without enough pieces. Every week he met dozens of applicants, colleagues, and business partners. They all spoke confidently, but Daniel often walked away with the unsettling feeling that he didn't really know who they were. At first, he trusted words. If someone said, "I'm a team player," he took it face value. If another promised, "I can handle pressure," he believed it. Yet reality told a different story. A candidate who spoke passionately about teamwork later created conflict in the office. A manager who promised loyalty quietly prepared to leave for another company. Over time, these experiences left Daniel frustrated. The more he thought about it, the more he realized his challenge wasn't unique. People around him also complained, "I can't tell when someone is lying," or "I never know who to trust." Words were everywhere, but truth seemed hidden beneath the surface. Daniel began to wonder, am I blind to the signals that reveal people's real intentions? This conflict weighed heavily on him. As someone responsible for evaluating talent, making the wrong judgment didn't just affect him. It impacted entire teams, projects, and even the company's future. And beyond work, in his personal life, the same struggle appeared. Friends who spoke kindly sometimes proved unreliable. Strangers who seemed distant occasionally turned out to be genuine and kind. The disconnect between words and reality grew impossible to ignore. Daniel's situation mirrors the experience of millions around the world. Every day, people rely on spoken language to understand others, but words alone can deceive. A polished speech may hide insecurity. A confident smile may cover fear. Without the ability to observe beyond language, misunderstandings and disappointments are inevitable. Daniel's journey begins at this point of tension, a professional and personal struggle to see more clearly, to move past surface-level impressions, and to develop a new kind of vision. A vision that goes beyond hearing words, to truly observing the signals that reveal who someone really is. One Saturday morning, feeling both curious and desperate for answers, Daniel signed up for a workshop called See Beyond Words. The room was filled with professionals from different fields: teachers, managers, lawyers, and even a few doctors. They all had one thing in common. Each of them felt frustrated by the gap between what people said and what people truly meant. The instructor, a calm yet energetic woman named Dr. Harris, began with a statement that instantly grabbed Daniel's attention. Most people hear words, but few people see the truth. Observation is the hidden key to understanding human nature. Her words resonated deeply. Daniel had spent years listening carefully to people's words, but he rarely paid attention to what their bodies, expressions, and silences were communicating. Dr. Harris continued, "Think about it. Words are easy to control. People rehearse what they want to say. They polish their sentences. They plan their stories. But the body, the eyes, the small, unconscious movements, those are much harder to fake. If you want to understand someone, don't just listen. Observe." For Daniel, this was a breakthrough. He suddenly realized why he had misjudged so many people. He had been focusing on the polished, controlled part of communication, the words, while ignoring the uncontrolled signals happening right in front of him. It wasn't that he lacked intelligence or empathy. It was simply that he had never been trained to notice the details that reveal truth. Throughout the workshop, participants practiced exercises, watching short video clips without sound and guessing emotions, analyzing body language and photos, and role-playing conversations where only subtle movements revealed discomfort or dishonesty. Each activity opened Daniel's eyes wider. He saw how someone could smile while their feet pointed toward the door, signaling they wanted to leave. He noticed how a person's tone and timing could reveal doubt, even when their words were confident. By the end of the day, Daniel felt something shift inside him. The problem wasn't that people were impossible to read. The problem was that he had been looking in the wrong place. For the first time, he felt hopeful that he could sharpen his perception and stop being blindsided by words alone. That workshop became the turning point. From then on, Daniel decided to train himself to observe, not just hear. And with that choice, his entire approach to communication and relationships began to change. Daniel's transformation truly began when he decided to apply the skills he learned from the workshop into his daily life. At first, it felt strange, like learning a new language. But as he practiced, the details that had once been invisible began to reveal themselves. Slowly, he realized that observation was not about spying or judging. It was about noticing reality with clarity. 1. Eyes over words. Daniel's first lesson came during a job interview he conducted. A young candidate declared confidently, "I am very comfortable speaking in front of large groups." But as she spoke, her eyes darted away, and her pupils constricted. Her words suggested confidence, but her eyes betrayed nervousness. Daniel realized that true confidence shines in the gaze, not just the voice. 2. Feet don't lie. In a long departmental meeting, everyone seemed polite and engaged. Yet Daniel noticed one colleague's feet constantly pointed toward the door, tapping impatiently. Although the man smiled and nodded at the discussion, his body screamed he wanted to leave. That subtle detail taught Daniel that feet often reveal what the heart truly desires. 3. Micro movements. Negotiating with a client, Daniel mentioned the price of the service. Instantly, the client bit his lower lip and touched his neck, a fleeting micro-expression of discomfort. It lasted less than a second, but Daniel caught it. Instead of pushing harder, he paused and addressed the concern gently. This built trust, and the client eventually agreed. 4. Listen to silence. During another interview, an applicant described past achievements with great enthusiasm. But when asked about why he left his previous company, he hesitated. The pause was heavy, filled with avoidance. Daniel understood. Silence can reveal more than words. That gap spoke volumes about issues the candidate wasn't ready to disclose. 5. Timing matters. Daniel learned to notice not only what people said, but when they said it. Once, a colleague answered a difficult question almost instantly, with an overly smooth response. It felt rehearsed. Genuine answers often carry pauses, reflections, or natural imperfections. Perfect timing can sometimes mean a perfect lie. 6. Recognize patterns. Over time, Daniel noticed behavioral loops. One coworker, for example, consistently blamed others whenever mistakes happened. At first, Daniel thought it was coincidence, but after hearing the same pattern multiple times, he recognized it as part of her deeper character. People reveal themselves not in isolated moments, but in repeated habits. 7. Clothing and grooming. Daniel also learned to read subtle contradictions. A client arrived in an elegant suit, clearly trying to project success and order. But his shoes were old, scuffed, and unpolished. That small detail suggested a gap between the image he wanted to present and his actual lifestyle. Appearance, Daniel realized, is a silent statement, but details can betray the truth. 8. Repeated words. During interviews, Daniel began listening carefully for repetition. One candidate constantly said, I'm trying. Though the words seemed harmless, repetition revealed insecurity. It was not a statement of achievement, but of struggle. For Daniel, this became a key insight. The words people repeat are often windows into their fears and self-image. 9. How they treat the powerless. The most powerful lesson came at a business lunch. A manager was charming with executives at the table, but snapped impatiently at the waiter who served them. Daniel saw it instantly. The truest test of character is how someone treats those with less power. Respect shown to the powerless speaks louder than respect given to the powerful. 10. Calm mind to see truth. Finally, Daniel discovered that none of these skills mattered if his own mind was noisy. Observation required stillness. Before important meetings, he practiced breathing deeply, calming his thoughts, and setting aside personal biases. With a quiet mind, he saw more clearly. Details stood out. Truth revealed itself. As weeks passed, Daniel realized he had gained something extraordinary. He no longer felt blind in conversations. He could sense hidden emotions, recognize inconsistencies, and understand people on a deeper level. It was not about exposing lies. It was about seeing reality. And with every observation, his confidence grew. After weeks of practice, Daniel began to notice not only changes in how he perceived others, but also changes in how he understood himself. The workshop had promised him a new lens for communication, and now he could see why. Every interaction became an opportunity to uncover subtle truths. From this journey, Daniel extracted 5 profound lessons that stayed with him. 1. The truth lives in the details. Daniel realized that people rarely reveal themselves through big, dramatic gestures. Instead, it is the small details, the quick glance, the tapping foot, the repeated phrase, that carry the most honesty. Words can be polished, but details are harder to fake. He learned that observing these micro clues allowed him to grasp the truth hidden beneath surface appearances. 2. Observation requires patience, not haste. At first, Daniel had been eager to catch signs in every conversation, but soon he discovered that rushing led to mistakes. Real observation meant slowing down, listening fully, and letting the other person reveal themselves in their own rhythm. Patience created space, and in that space, truth naturally appeared. 3. The body reveals what words try to hide. Perhaps the most striking insight came from seeing how often people's bodies contradicted their voices. Smiles paired with tense shoulders, calm words paired with restless feet. These were reminders that the body cannot lie as easily as the tongue. For Daniel, this meant that communication is never complete if one listens only with the ears. 4. A calm mind is the foundation of observation. There were times when Daniel's emotions, excitement, frustration, or anxiety, made him blind to signals right in front of him. He realized that clarity only emerged when his mind was calm. Breathing deeply before important conversations became a simple but powerful ritual. A still mind allowed him to see more, interpret better, and avoid projecting his own fears onto others. 5. Observation is not for judgment, but for understanding and protection. At first, Daniel worried that developing sharp observation skills might make him overly critical. But over time, he saw that the goal was not to judge others, but to understand them more fully. With understanding came empathy, and also protection. By noticing warning signs early, he could avoid being deceived or manipulated, while still maintaining respect for others. Together, these 5 lessons reshaped Daniel's perspective. He no longer saw observation as a trick, but as a discipline, a way to live more wisely, connect more deeply, and protect himself with awareness rather than suspicion. Daniel's journey is not just his own. It reflects a universal reality. Most people fail to truly understand others because they rely almost entirely on spoken words. We're trained from childhood to listen to what people say, yet we are rarely taught to notice what people show. Words can be manipulated, but subtle signals often reveal the deeper truth. This gap between words and reality is why so many relationships, whether personal, professional, or social, fall into misunderstanding, disappointment, or even betrayal. Modern research strongly supports what Daniel discovered through experience. At Stanford University, communication experts found that accurately observing body language can improve negotiation outcomes by up to 35%. Imagine walking into a business meeting not just hearing what's said, but also perceiving what is left unsaid. The hesitation in a client's eyes, the tension in a colleague's posture. Such awareness changes everything. Harvard studies also highlight that people who practice close observation of details develop stronger empathy and reduce interpersonal conflicts. The reason is simple. When you learn to see beyond words, you stop assuming and start understanding. Instead of reacting to what someone says at face value, you tune into what they actually feel. This leads to deeper connections and fewer unnecessary clashes. The implications stretch far beyond negotiation tables and personal relationships. Leaders who observe well can inspire trust and detect problems before they escalate. Teachers who notice subtle cues in students can offer timely support. Even in everyday life, sharper observation helps us protect ourselves from deception, avoid toxic relationships, and appreciate authenticity where it exists. Think about your own interactions. How many times have you taken someone's words as truth, only to be disappointed later? How often have you missed the signals that were right in front of you? What would change if you had the ability to truly see, not just hear? Observation is not about suspicion. It is about awareness. It empowers us to live more consciously, to navigate relationships with clarity, and to build decisions on reality rather than illusion. It is a skill, but also a mindset, one that requires practice, patience, and humility. So the question is, if you could see beyond words, how different would your relationships and decisions become? The answer might surprise you. Just like Daniel, you may discover that this skill is less about others and more about transforming the way you engage with the world itself. Observation, as Daniel discovered, is not a passive act. It is a superpower. It allows us to cut through illusions, see people for who they truly are, and navigate life with greater confidence and clarity. With sharper observation, you can protect yourself from deception, build deeper trust in relationships, and understand human nature on a level most people never reach. The truth is, you don't need to master all 10 observation skills overnight. What matters is beginning. Choose just one of the techniques, whether it's paying attention to eyes, listening to silences, or noticing repeated words, and apply it in your daily life. Practice it consistently, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Each small effort will sharpen your awareness and strengthen your ability to see beyond the surface. Here's a practical step. Write down the observation skill you want to practice this week. Keep it in mind when you talk to colleagues, friends, or strangers. At the end of each day, reflect. What did you notice that you might have missed before? How did it change the way you understood the interaction? This simple exercise can be the seed of transformation. With time, your mind will naturally start to look deeper, beyond what people say, into the truth they reveal unconsciously. And once you begin to see the world this way, you can never go back to blindness. Remember this: the world doesn't hide the truth. It whispers it in small details. Learn to see them, and you'll never be blind again. So, will you take the first step? Choose your skill, practice it today, and let the journey of sharper observation reshape not only how you see others, but also how you see yourself.